Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to the show. Today, we're not going to be doing a watch review. It's going to kind of be a mod review. So we're just going to really be checking out and examining one part of this watch and saving the full review and reveal for later on when it's complete. So I do get a lot of questions on specific mods when I have posted modified watches in the past. So what I want to do is actually try to dedicate certain reviews just to certain pieces versus kind of talking about the watch as a whole. So what we're going to be looking at today is the TST mod from the Tiger UK. So the Tiger UK, of course, is, they're based out of England. The first TST mod, quote unquote, was produced in 2013. The Tiger, just a fun fact, in Tiger UK is actually in honor of the Royal Leicestershire Regiment Tigers of British military World War I and World War II fame. So very cool. As somebody, as a veteran myself, for the United States Marine Corps, it's always nice to kind of get a little bit of that military heritage. So very, very cool of John, the owner, to honor his father and grandfather like that. So basically the story behind this, if you haven't noticed, that this watch started out as an SKX 171. And now it looks very much like some type of automatic tuna mashup, right? So as the story goes is, John, the owner of the Tiger UK, he started out, he was restoring, a personal vintage Seiko Tuna diver, and he became pretty frustrated with the scarce and really hard to source parts. So what he did was he did some measuring, a few more modern Seiko divers, started out with the Turtle and kind of worked his way up to the SKX. And, he really saw that with the abundance of interchangeable aftermarket as well as OEM parts available, he could really create an option to convert a more, quote unquote, common Seiko diver, be it quartz or automatic, into something that really embodied the spirit of the vintage tunas of old. As you can see, the shroud itself is actually a much thinner profile than you'll see on the modern the modern tunas that are out there. So that's a very nice thing stylistically that really drew me into this particular mod. So, and of course, once you do that, it really introduced a great option, at that really entry-level pricing that's perfect for additional customizations. So if you want to really personalize the piece, and then of course it introduces some hassle-free maintenance, with the more modern movements and parts. So basically, the Tiger UK, they do, aftermarket watch modifications, mainly in the Seiko diver niche. And what they produce is this tuna style shroud for Seiko divers. So this is the SKX base model, of course, because that was the donor watch. And the shroud itself is 46 millimeters wide. By about 9 millimeters tall, and that's just the shroud. As far as the watch itself, it's about 13 millimeters tall, and it has 22 millimeter lugs. And interestingly enough, the lug to lug is actually shorter. It's about 45 millimeters. So even the lugs don't stick out past the highest point of the. Let's just zoom out and take a closer look. Past the furthest point on this on the shroud there, as you can see. So definitely really cool piece. This watch really has no modifications done to it yet apart from the shroud, and of course this really great strap code hexed oyster with ratchet and clasp. So I'm a fan of that. Great little perlage details there. And the case back's been sterilized because there will be some custom specs updated there once I finish out on having the rest of the work done, which will be done by Artifice HoroWorks. Definitely great team over there. Alex, I really can't give the guy more praise for the work he did on my SKX 009. So there's definitely some more changes coming. So aesthetically, this is going to kind of undergo a couple more modifications, an extended crown, different bezel insert, updated movement, so I have the hacking and hand winding that I've become so accustomed to, and then also changing out the hands for a set that is, I'd say, a little bit more tuna as far as its in the styling and kind of the spirit of the watch. I think I'm just going to take it a little bit further in the other direction. But for those of you that are out there, I think this is actually a really cool mod, as is. You can throw this on a NATO or just use the OEM rubber, and it's a cool watch for not too much of an investment, especially if you're going to use a watch that you already own, right? That's already kind of beat up, because a lot of it is going to be shaved away in this process to fit this great shroud here. So let's get it on wrist. Okay, as you can see, now although it is quite large at 46 millimeters, it really isn't, it sits on the wrist well. I think, as most tuna watches go, they definitely are normally the largest watch in somebody's collection, and it's because the really short lugs, it just really wears really well. And of course this isn't any taller than an SKX, so not too shabby. Really, so the cost of this right now is 165 British pounds, which is roughly $240 USD, give or take, depending on the exchange rates. So what's included in that price is, of course, you get the shroud and then the case machining. And in my case, they did machine the bezel so that this bezel would clear. Normally, people would have this done to a SKX 007 or 009, so they wouldn't have to worry about that. But for me, it was a little extra step, but it was done free of charge by John, so that was great. And it also includes shipping. So there's about a 3 to 4 week turnaround, sometimes less, it depends, because he does do these in batches. And as far as, if you're not in the UK, like for me, what I did is I looked on, the UK version of eBay and was looking for a UK vendor so that they could just ship it directly to his house. In the UK versus having something sent to me, then me sending it back out and having to deal with the extra kind of shipping. So for me, the convenience and timing wise, it just worked out better because he was able to get his hands on the watch sooner and get it back to me. So that was definitely very nice. So let's do this. Let's actually take a look size wise and at a comparison here, versus the new Turtle, also an icon of Seiko styling. And you can see, honestly, that the Turtle almost looks a little bit bigger, although it's only a 44 in comparison, just because of the case shape itself. So, if you were kind of always turned away or turned off by the bulkiness of a tuna, this, I'd say one of these mods is kind of the tuna to have, unless you can find an old vintage one. Its diameter is definitely a lot smaller, and the profile and kind of its footprint is much more comfortable on my 7¼ inch wrist. And this the cool thing about this bracelet is it does taper down to 18 millimeters, which I think it just keeps those proportions really nice and really kind of that classic old tuna look, versus now they're getting pretty large, especially once you start getting into the spring driven and the mechanical tunas, which of course the price also increases exponentially, not just the size. So you know, I just kind of wanted to show a side by side so you guys could get an idea of the size. It's really not a huge piece. It definitely has wrist presence, that's for sure. But it's not some big oversized watch like, you know, you might be thinking. So, you know, just a couple of closing thoughts. You know, it's just nice to have an affordable automatic tuna option, you know, and then you tie that in with the fact that of how customizable it you know has become by using the SKX platform. I mean, it's really great. And choosing the 171 as for the SKX 171 as the donor watch, you know, for me, I think was great, and I think it would work for a lot of people. It already has. Oh, it's getting late. You can see the date is starting to change over there, but it has the black day and date disc, which is very nice, and then, you know, it has the applied indices, which is definitely a nice step. I mean, that's a nice step over even the real deal tunas. Even the very expensive ones don't have applied indices, so that's definitely a nice touch. And you know, I think because it is a little bit less common when you have it modded, it doesn't really stand out as, you know, a shrouded SKX 007 or 009. It looks more like a tuna, you know, because it just carries that aesthetic, and it's just something you don't see all the time. So it really makes it a chameleon when it puts on this shroud. It really kind of just goes with it, and I think it looks great. So, you know, there's definitely many more mods to come for this, you know, and I think probably the one I didn't touch on was, yeah, I am also gonna do Sapphire. So, I mean, I think I kind of rounded up all the mods, but I think you'll still be pleased once I do the full reveal and you kind of see everything together. I'm really excited to see how this is gonna turn out, and then you know, because I do plan on possibly doing a limited run of watches to commemorate the channel. And you know, the SKX thing is you know, it is being done right now on other channels, and not everybody wants to pay you know, that much money for a modified SKX. Although this is just a modified SKX, I think if you think of it as a mechanical tuna, I think the prices definitely are a little bit easier to swallow versus when you think about, you know, the donor watch. You know, an SKX is, at the end of the day, it's still going to look like an SKX no matter kind of what dial you swap out in handset. So this really transforms the watch, and I think it kind of just puts it in a little bit of a different market. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Big shout out to John, the owner of the Tiger UK. Great work, great communication, and really a pleasure to work with. And, you know, I look forward to collaborating with him in the future. So make sure you guys check out the links in the description to his site. And, you know, there's tons of QA stuff in there, and lots of galleries. It'll give you a ton of ideas. You might want to configure more than one watch, right? You'll walk out of there and you'll probably want to take every modded SKX you have and have a shroud thrown onto it. So with that being said, you know what? Why not get a little lume, right? Although this is really just an SKX 171 lume shot. Why not compare? Actually, you know what? Let's get the turtle in there too. So everybody loves lume comparisons. So let's see if I can get a little closer. Cool. Then what I'll do is we'll charge these bad boys up, and you can kind of get an idea of the lume of an older SKX versus a newer SRP line watch. So as you can see, not much of a difference, right? Especially since they both have those applied indices. There's definitely a thick layer of lume that is applied. So, oh, it looks like this Could use one click over. Nope. Too far. No. Cool. All right. So with that, you know, thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please hit like. Definitely leave your comments. Let me know what you think. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye.